afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Democratic View. I'm the hostess. My name is Phyllis Italiano, and with me I have one of our East Hampton town employees. Her name is Katie Casey, and she works for the East Hampton Housing Authority. And she's going to tell us all about some of the important projects that are in the works right now. Well, actually, one particular one. So we want to know a little bit about who you are and how you got here. So start by telling us born, raised, and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. I am honestly not that interesting, but okay.
That's okay.
I was raised in Northport. I lived in Northport for 30 years, moved to Lloyd Harbor for about 10 years, and I moved to East Hampton in '96.
Where's Lloyd Harbor?
It is the westernmost Suffolk County. It still is in Huntington Town. It's on the north shore.
Yes, I know Huntington. And so where did you go to college?
Friends World College. That was how I landed in Lloyd Harbor. Friends World College was a very small, it was an educational experiment. You had to go overseas for 2 years in order to complete your course of studies. So it was an international school with a focus on service.
You know, I like to pride myself as an educator as knowing every college. I don't know that college.
It was started in the 60s. Unfortunately, it closed in '92.
And when you say Friends, is it
as in Quaker Friends?
That's what I was wondering. Oh, well, that's great. They have some great institutions, the Quakers. Mm-hmm. And what did you major there when you were there?
Art in education, computers and education.
Art, computers, and education, 3?
Art in computers and education.
Oh, art in computers and education.
Yes, it was the 80s, and the nice thing about Friends World College is you create your own curriculum, and you have to be disciplined. You know, a lot of it is independent study with a lot of travel, which takes a long time to process. And then you create a journal, you do a thesis, you present your paper. So you can pretty much study anything you want to, but you have to create your own curriculum. It was a Regents approved or Middle States approved institution, so you had to meet.
So were you able to get people to be your professors and teach the classes?
Yeah, it's more like mentorship, internship, hands-on.
So you had to do, let's say, your own individual research and things, and,
yeah.
and then they sort of watch what you were doing.
That's right. That's the challenge, really. Is to.
And what brought you to East Hampton?
We moved here. My husband got a job out here, so we moved out here, and that's how we landed here. I have 2 grown children, so they went through the school here. They were young when we came. My son was in 2nd grade. My daughter
What town did you live in?
The first year or 2 we were here, we rented in Springs. I lived in Amagansett for a year and then bought a home in East Hampton North. That's unincorporated East Hampton. It's not one of the hamlets. It's south of Springs, west of Amagansett, north of the village.
Okay, wow. What's the name of the street? Maybe that may help me place it.
Accabonac.
Oh, I know that. I pass it all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. So you're right near my bay.
Your bay?
Well, I own that bay.
Okay.
You mean you think it's yours?
Fair enough.
It's mine.
I'm an ocean girl, so.
I love that bay.
Yeah, we used to go to the bay when the kids were little, Baby Beach.
Yes.
We spent a lot of time at Maidstone, actually, when the kids were little, but I'm an ocean girl.
Well, I used to be an ocean girl. On Fire Island, I would go in 4 times in a day. But now that I have my knee replaced, it's very hard to go in because you can't always get up. You get knocked over.
Yeah.
I look for calm days to go in because I do love the ocean.
I
Still the most thrilling thing in the world is going in the ocean.
Yes. And I don't go in if it's really woolly.
Yeah.
I used to.
The old days, I used to do that. Matter of fact, I used to say I almost died in the ocean 4 times. Mm-hmm. Then, oh boy. So you now are a part of the Housing Authority.
That's right.
And you want to tell us what's on the horizon and about this new plan that's up?
Certainly. Amagansett, 531 Montauk Highway. The Housing Authority issued bonds and purchased the property in March of this year. It's been in development for about 2 years. There's a lot of preliminaries that need to be done. We did a market study, hired an outside firm to look at the market conditions. Market conditions, not only real estate, but also infrastructure, transportation, school districts, access to services, to find just the right property. So we found what we thought was the right property, and then we turn all of the data, the community information, over to the consultants. They research it and come up with a report as to whether that's feasible and appropriate. The market study is necessary for the funding. You don't want to build something that doesn't meet the needs of the community, and then you have occupancy problems. And because the property has to support itself with rent revenues, if nobody wants to live there and we have a high vacancy rate, A, we're not meeting the needs of the community. We didn't build what was needed. And B, we're going to have a hard time paying our bills.
So exactly where is it located? Tell us that. I mean, I know where it is, but tell everybody else.
It's 531 Montauk Highway in Amagansett as you're heading east toward Napeague, north side of 27, just after the IGA and before the recent CPF purchase, the 555 with the big horse barn and the big open. Mm-hmm. That's a little over 18 acres. That has been preserved by CPF last year.
So there would actually probably be some kind of road that would lead to it. It's sort of, isn't it sort of almost behind that area?
It does have frontage on 27. It's right in between that IGA shopping center. There's the old Villa restaurant that has been closed for some time.
Yes.
Then there's a small parcel. That's our parcel, 531. It's just under 5 acres. And then you have V&V gas station with the car wash, yes. And then 555.
And how many units are they proposing in this?
40 residential and then 4 commercial suites.
Uh-huh. And the 40 residential are going to be how big?
4 studio apartments, and they run with the commercial suite. So the commercial suite comes with a studio. That's for the proprietor or their staff. So it's kind of it's a mixed use situation. And then there are 36 rental apartments, 12 each of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom. So 36
12,
in the back.
Like 12-3, 12-2, and 12-1.
Correct.
Okay.
Plus 4 studios over 4 commercial suites.
Okay, and where does the funding come from?
The bulk of the funding comes from the sale of tax credits. There would be a limited partnership formed between the Housing Authority and private for-profit investors, pool of money, traditionally, because you're talking about millions, usually it is an institution, JP Morgan Chase or Bank of America, Citibank, something like that. Sometimes it's private money, private for-profit fund, but generally speaking, it's a bank. So they purchase our tax credits. The government issues tax credits and puts them out on the market and says, okay, you have the project that you're looking to build is eligible for a certain amount of tax credits. The investor partner purchases those tax credits, so that's not debt. We don't have to pay that back. They give us development capital, and they enjoy our tax credits for 10 years.
And that's the bank you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like CRA, Community Reinvestment. It's the same principle.
And when you say the government, what government are you talking about? Local government?
The state, no. The state and the federal government have
So there is
tax
federal
credit.
money in this?
Well, it's not federal money. We don't get any money from the federal government. They allocate a certain number of credits, and permit the housing authority or whoever the developer is to market those credits.
Okay, it's a little complicated from
It is complicated. It makes my head hurt.
My ability to understand how all these things work. I only know how to do my checkbook. But
Well, you're ahead of the game then. You're doing okay if you can do your own.
Well, because the point we were talking about at different discussions that I've had with some people, one of the things that we've talked about is if the federal government is involved,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't that put a kind of, now I don't want to say limit, but don't they put a certain criteria of who's going to be getting these apartments?
They do.
They do.
Sure.
So it has to be open to everyone?
No. The criteria that the federal government and the state government would require that we meet as a developer is that it's ADA compliant and that we're fair. We don't...
it's what kind of compliant?
ADA, Americans
Disabilities.
with Disabilities Act, sure.
You got to say that for people.
Okay. There are minimum and maximum unit sizes, apartment sizes. We have to provide a certain percentage of closet or storage space. It has to be clean and safe and accessible. Those are the kinds of criteria that the federal and the state government are looking for. They're design standards. It's architectural and engineering. We have to meet those standards. I'll give you one example. A year and a half ago, when we first sat down with the state, they had one of their design people there, and the architect had drawn in a cute little picket fence, and the state design rep, the person from the state who looks at design, said, you can't have a picket fence. We don't like the pointy tops on the fence. Somebody could get hurt on that. So we had to take the picket fence out. That's the kind of thing they're looking for. They want to make sure that it's...
the state has no imagination.
I guess they're just covering their bases.
No, of course, of course.
So, but in terms of eligibility for the people, we're talking about the community, right? The people.
Right. That's
the federal and state funders want to make sure that we're being fair, that we're not discriminating against people that are too young or too old, too tall, too thin, too anything.
Sounds like a song. They're either too young or too old.
Too old.
Yeah.
You're always something.
Remember that song? So that kind of thing is fair. And also, what about where they live right now?
Mm-hmm. The East Hampton Housing Authority is able, we are authorized to do a local preference. So the preference system works. We have 3 existing properties. The people who live in those communities, the people who live at those locations are, with very, very few exceptions, there are 1 or 2 who moved to the community and then were able to get in quickly, but the vast majority of the existing tenants already lived or worked in the community. There is this perception that we're bringing people in from the outside. Well,
that's one of the things I really want. That's why you're here.
Yeah, okay.
That's one of the things that we had to really clear up for people.
Yes, the concern is that we're bringing people from away with a capital F and a capital A.
Yes,
Lona
I
Rubinstein's book. You remember that book?
And I remember somebody I know saying, well, where's my kid going to be able to live there?
Yeah.
Who lives here.
Yeah. So we're not looking to bring people into the community. We're looking to meet the needs of the existing community. So there are many people in East Hampton. There was just something in the press yesterday. There was a large article in the residence section about how people fall into seasonal rental patterns where they are camping at Hither Hills or Cedar Point Park for 2 months, and then they get a winter rental because they can afford the winter rental. They get bumped out in June, July, August.
We have read letters and stories about that.
And it's true. That's not urban myth. I mean, that is really happening to a lot of good people. So it's very difficult to find the year-round rental where as long as you're a good tenant and you take care of the property and you don't do anything outrageous, you know that your lease will be renewed, that the property won't be sold, or somebody passes away and the house is inherited, and and then you had this great year-round rental, but the owner, for whatever reason, maybe the owner's adult children have graduated college and they need a place to live. So then they tell the tenant, look, I can't renew your lease. You got to move out. My daughter's 25 years old and she wants to live. So there are a lot of ways that people fall into that seasonal rental, and it's very stressful.
So also the people who work here and commute right now to come to East Hampton to work, who have jobs. So I know of one particular person who actually Sag Harbor born and raised, who can't live here because it's too expensive for her. But she told me that the single room apartment, the one-bedroom apartment, is very expensive. How expensive is it?
For what we're planning in Amagansett,
yes.
It's about $1,100.
$1,100. That's not so bad. That's not so bad.
It's less expensive than most of what's out there. People renting a room in a house are paying $900 or $1,000 just for a room without private bath.
Some of them are in basements. We know that too,
Yeah.
and crowded in rooms.
Yeah.
So we know all about that kind of stuff. So now the other thing I was going to ask you about was, do you have a list already?
No.
You don't have a list?
We don't, because
I thought there was a list on, a waiting list for housing on the other committee,
There is. The Office of Housing and Community Development has two main lists. There are actually more than that, but the Office of Housing and Community Development, where I worked previously with Tom Rule, they do the Housing Choice Voucher Program, that's rental subsidy, and they also do the home ownership program. I wore both those hats during my tenure there. So they have two existing wait lists, people waiting for rental subsidy and people waiting to buy a house through the town's home ownership program.
What is that, the town's home ownership program?
Camp Hero, Green Hollow, Whalebone, Kingstown Heights. There are hundreds of homes that were developed in partnership with the town going back 30 years at least.
Really?
Yeah, some of them are scattered around, some of them are scattered lots.
I mean, some of them are like individual homes?
Yeah.
Really?
And depending on when that was developed, there are certain recapture agreements or appreciation caps, or the Green Hollow, the most recent homeownership development, that was 32 homes, I believe. I should know that, I sold them all. In that case, the town retains ownership of the land and the homeowner just owns the house.
And where is Green Hollow?
Green Hollow is off Stephen Hand's Path as you're going toward 27, Towhee Trail. Nobody even knows it's there. It's part of the beauty of it.
I'm on Stephen Hand's Path all the time.
Yeah.
I got to look for that.
Well, you're not going to recognize it. As you're driving by, that's the thing. People believe that sometimes affordable housing projects
look like affordable housing.
Are creating blight. We're not building blight. And if it's well managed and maintained, it is invisible. It's not as though you're driving along and there are all these nice houses and then it's like, oh, there's the affordable housing. I can tell by looking at it. That's not the way it works. Not here anyway.
Wow. That's wonderful. That really is. That's really quite good. So now, on this new project that we're talking about, the one that's in Amagansett, that you had a big meeting and a lot of people attended, and we were talking about that with a couple of my friends yesterday, and they all commented about what a wonderful job you did of presenting it.
Thank you.
On that particular one, there is something about earning capacity in relationship to being able to rent. Am I correct?
This one is a hybrid The Housing Authority has 3 properties. 2 of them are low income. Another one is what's referred to as workforce housing. That's something of an unpopular term because you don't have to be working to live there in workforce housing, but you have to demonstrate ability to pay. The Springs Fireplace apartments are not subsidized. They're owned by the Housing Authority.
Is that sort of a little bit before the dump area?
Yep.
Around in that area? I've been in there. That's very nice.
Thank you. We try to do a good job. We try to maintain it. And we try to instill a sense of community so that the tenants take care of their own. They're always planting flower beds, and if something needs to be fixed, they need to contact us right away and let us know, this is broken, come fix it. And if you maintain it, people have pride of place.
I got a couple of things broken.
Yeah, you want me to come over and take care of that for you, Phyllis?
So it really sounds, my one other question is this, because I am tremendously interested in water quality. Mm-hmm. I am absolutely convinced that we're on our way to being Flint, Michigan, unless we take, I know about nitrogen, I know about phosphorus, I know about volatile organic compounds, mm-hmm. and increased density. I will tell you one thing you probably don't know, and that is that if you put Queens, Nassau County, and Suffolk County together, you have the 3rd densest country in the world. Did you know that?
I did not know that,
yeah.
But I believe it.
It's true. And I have been coming to Suffolk County, I've said this many times, since I was years old. Really, in the early 50s, I was in Jamesport. My aunt married a Squires, mm-hmm. Bert Squires, and I remember what this place looked like. Mm-hmm. I remember Riverhead, when actually he used to call it Riverhead, and I remember what it was like. And ain't nothing like the way it is today, let mm-hmm. me tell you. And so there has been an enormous increase in density out on the East End, mm-hmm. really. And so the thing I want to know is with all of these units and people showering, using toilets, washing machines and dishwashers and running water, what kind of septic systems are you going to have?
On-site treatment. It's not conventional septic. This property, because it has an affordable housing overlay, as of right, we can do the density, give or take a couple units that we're proposing. But the Housing Authority thinks the right thing to do is to look forward and be proactive, use best available technologies, and build it now so that it still makes sense 50 years from now. We don't have to do on-site treatment. We're opting to do on-site treatment. We haven't decided which system we're going to use yet, but we're working with wastewater management consultants. We're going to get the nitrogen down as low as we can, but there would be no conventional septic. There's no.
Well, I've said many times, if you put in a septic system right now, of course, it's obsolete.
Oh, yeah, it's been obsolete for 30 years. We've had better technology for at least 30 years.
But the Suffolk County has yet to really come out with what we really need in septic systems. They're working on approving it. Let's see, I think I interviewed a woman from the Peconic Estuary about 2.5 years ago, and she said it's around the corner. Mm-hmm. That corner is the biggest corner I have ever seen in my life. I'm hoping now that they're going to, it looks like they might be coming to this point of providing something that's reasonable and will do the job as far as...
It has to be practical. It has to function. They have to be sure that whatever system is installed, they want to get all the kinks out before they say, go ahead and install these. The county, we've met with them a couple times. They're looking at a number of systems. They said that they would be approved by June, so we're waiting for that. They do pilot programs.
Oh, God, they said that a long time ago,
Yeah.
too. It would be approved.
So they do pilot programs where they put them in different size buildings with different flow to measure. Some systems work better with low flow. Some systems work better with greater flow. I believe that a few new systems will be approved shortly, and we're looking to use something that is right on the edge, that's leading the way.
Well, also, I mean, right now you're in the talking stage. You haven't really, nobody's broken ground and started.
No, but we are in engineering. We have a team of engineers doing their thing. The project will be built to Passive House standards. We'll be looking for Passive House certification. So electrical engineer, structural engineer, the architect, wastewater management, they're all consulting now. They're doing their thing to design the building.
When will you actually break ground and begin to build, I think?
On the infrastructure, probably 18 months. A lot of it depends on the planning board.
So we're talking about 2 more years before people are really going to be living in there.
3 more years before.
Okay, 3 more
a
years.
year and a half for infrastructure.
And on
a year and a half
that note, I will say thank you so much for coming. I think you've answered all of my questions that I had, and good luck with the project.
Thank you so much, Phyllis.
Oh, listen, thank you. I'm glad you were here. You answered all my questions.
Okay.